The first time I showed any interest into tattooing was when I was walking down the red light districts with my mum in Copenhagen. So I would draw my own tattoo designs and take them into the red light districts of Copenhagen, and then some old tattooers would completely fuck them up and then take all my money. And I thought, hang on a minute. And then I'd draw the designs for my mates, and then they'd go to the same old guy and he would fuck that up and he would take the money. I thought, I seem to be doing all the work here and he seems to be getting all the money. There's something wrong with this situation. I decided to open up in London and in West Hampstead because it was a unique melting pot. And again, I love a challenge, and when people say it will never work there, I have to do it. Local community have welcomed me and they absolutely love having us here, and it's lovely. At first I started tattooing myself and it really hurt, so I thought it's probably better if I just tattoo my friends, as it's a lot less painful. And then I got the money, and that made much more sense to me. I come from a graffiti background. I have never had an art class in my life. I've never had 1 hour of tuition ever. So the only school I came from was painting graffiti on trains, and that's where I learned what colours go together, what colours doesn't go together, and how to do characters. And I guess that basically I'm still painting trains, but just still doing the same thing, but just replace the trains with people. When I first came to tattooing, I tried to get an apprenticeship, which was absolutely impossible. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to name him, but one of my biggest heroes in tattooing totally broke my heart. I was only 17, and I went to his shop to show him my portfolio, and he actually said to me, if I don't get out of the shop quick, now he would split my nose in half. So I taught myself. I built my own tattoo machine, and I taught myself. It took me 10 years maybe to get as far as the kids get. You know, the kids who are apprentices under me will learn the same in 2 years that it took me 10 years to learn, because I didn't have someone to tell me that's wrong. I didn't have someone to say, you know what, if you try and do this way, it works a lot better, or you know, that's great, but if you do it this way, it will work a lot faster, or whatever. The main thing that we're looking for when people want apprenticeships is originality. What's recently been added by young people is photorealism. There seems to have been a big influx of people with art degrees going into the tattoo industry. People are great artists who are entering into the industry. So they're already amazing as they get into tattooing, and that's really moved tattooing forward in leaps and bounds. You got to ask yourself, what can you do for tattooing? What can you give to this industry that isn't already there? Why should someone get tattooed by you, and why should we take you on? And then come up with some original stuff. And don't be scared, you know, don't be afraid of being different. Don't be afraid of doing some stuff that hasn't been done before. If the studio doesn't appreciate that, then they're not the right studio. The problem is that a lot of people are scared of originality. I guess before you enter a career, you're probably a bit unsure of yourself, and you want to conform and you want to fit in. What you should do is probably the complete opposite. I think any creative industry is always looking for new ideas. What we do well, and we don't need someone else to do it. What we can't do is get a different perspective of something. So when someone comes from the outside, they quite generally have a different perspective on the same subject, and therefore can come up with an original either solution or idea. When I was kind of had the right idea from the beginning, because I was a graffiti artist going into tattooing, and it turned out that that was what made me stand out from the crowd. That was what made me original, and that was what I could give to the tattoo industry. So I think for any young person entering into any creative industry is to believe in yourself, believe in the crazy ideas, don't edit out all the originality, don't try and conform. The greatest thing about traveling around the world is to, obviously you observe different styles of tattooing and different techniques of tattooing. And one of the beautiful things about tattoos is that no matter what part of or what corner of the world that you go to, They always have some form of tattooing.
I do, it's more fine art, kind of weird portrait. He's kind of very colour and that, and I'm very kind of black and grey. Totally different. He's more kind of street artist, graffiti kind of style art, where I'm more oil painting, kind of fine art kind of. So yeah, both our arts are kind of completely different. I do a lot of painting as well now, so I do a lot of oil painting. I try and divide the time between both of them, which is quite tricky, but yeah, sometimes the painting takes over and the tattooing kind of takes over.
It's really fascinating how different cultures and styles are done in different ways. One of the things that inspired me the most was probably going to San Francisco, a city where the nerd is the king, and I saw sci-fi tattoos, which is something that has inspired me immensely. One of the reasons why I travel around the world for tattoo conventions is I think it's very important to keep in touch with the real tattoo scene. And what you get from tattoo conventions is you get all the young talent. When people come with ideas to us, the main thing that we try and focus on is to try and make something unique for each client. Let's say, for example, in this coincidence, I was asked to do a Grim Reaper. And then we try and find an angle that makes the tattoo unique. So we did a Grim Reaper robot. And then I would ask the client to go away and find 3 or 4 different Reapers that they like, and a couple of Grim Reapers that they don't like. And that way I get a clear idea of the individual's taste, the likes and don't likes.
I choose Dan because I think I've got an affinity with his kind of vision on art. So I like graffiti art, and when I watched London Ink, that's when I saw Dan for the first time, and I saw him do a robot tattoo, and I thought to myself, I'll get one of those, and now I've got 2. I think it's colourful, I think it's bold, I think it's something that you remember when you've seen it. It's cartoonish, which I like. Robots in particular, I've always loved. Much like sort of sci-fi things like that. I quite like the whole idea of it, and it's unusual.
When I started out, I couldn't get into nightclubs because I had tattoos. Now I get invited to nightclubs because I have tattoos. Any kind of cultures have always had tattooing, and it's always been the upper parts of society that got tattooed. And it was only for a short while after the Second World War where tattooing became completely out of fashion and only became like working class art form. And we have taken it back to where it was normally. And now actually, if you are you have to be quite wealthy to have tattoos these days because they're bloody expensive. So it's kind of become a status symbol again. The most successful sports people have the most tattoos. The most successful rap artists have the most tattoos. I think it's very important that every generation try and push a little bit. What we did, I suppose, was, and I can't take credit for it on my own, we were a generation of tattooists who did it, was that we added big bold lines, we added lots of colour, and we added sort of a bit of a graffiti flavour in there. So we kind of moved the designs out of the dark ages and into a modern world. We introduced highlights and chrome effects, and basically we took the culture that we came from, which was comic books and graffiti, and just put it on the skin. And the next generation is doing hyper-realism and stuff that they go. So already it's moving along.